Hello everyone, Ken and Louie here, and just like every previous league that I have experienced before, this is my opinions and experiences with the heist mechanic in Heist League. So, when you start Heist League, I'm sure most of you have already done at least a few heists, but for those who don't know, or is seeing this in the future when Heist League is over, you get what's called rogues markers from just playing the game, pretty much. It's a random drop from monsters, but it's a pretty common drop. And they drop roughly around like 20 to 50, depending on what level the area is. And when you right-click it, it kind of acts like a portal scroll that is also used for other things. So you can go to the Rogue Harbor. And when you get to the Rogue Harbor, talk to Akira here, the administrator, and you get your first heist. And that will give you an introduction, and I think it might even be a level 1 zone or a level 10 zone or something, so you can have a stress-free introduction to the mechanic itself. So when you are done with that first contract, you will get contracts from, well, I don't think you actually need to complete that one in order for them to drop, but as time goes on, you will get contracts just from randomly dropping. It's just kind of a slightly more rare thing than the rogue markers are. But overall, they're not super hard to come by. But you can get higher rarities of them. So essentially, it's kind of like having mini maps, in a sense. Like you have an item, you give it to the Wayfinder here, do prepare heist, and then you can put your contract in it. So with this though, you have to select various characters that will help you do your heist. So for an example, Isla here can do, when we show inventory, she can do engineering and trap disarmament, and each of these have skill levels. So basically, the more maps or the highest, higher level contracts that you do will give her experience, and then they will level up. And some of the harder contracts will require higher levels of those skills.
I'm listening.
So Karst here can do lockpicking, perception, and agility, and whatnot. And I would have done this earlier, but to be completely honest, I haven't really done very many heists at all. And from my experience, I don't really think they're for me. And this character is a Chaos Inoculation Soul Rend build that has a decent amount of block and trying to have as much tankiness as I can get away with. As of right now, and I have gotten to level 89 within like a week and a half of this coming out. And typically what happens is that if I have a build that turns out to be really fun or looks extremely good on paper, I try to level up as fast as I can, but that also means focusing more on maps and not the league mechanic. More often than not, I don't even interact with the league mechanic until the maps stage. So
what do you need?
Let's get this one started here. So the rogue markers, like I mentioned before, they're basically like portal scrolls to get here. Oh, I have a trade. Let's do that first. Wants the Heartbreaker. So let's get back to the Rogue Harbor before I was derailed there. So when you put in your contract, you'll see here that it costs rogues markers in order to even initiate the contract itself. And also,
engineer reporting.
And when you add people, it also increases the cost as well. And you have to have people with you in order to even get the objective that you're going for in the first place, typically. Because they are required to open doors or open chests and whatnot. But this is a level 71. So with my DPS, it's not too difficult, but just like any League mechanic,
A strong plan is the best path to success.
just like any League mechanic, the monsters are significantly higher difficulty than the standard content. When I was around level 80 and I had 100,000 DPS, which I have 20% more than that now on tooltip, I was actually having quite a bit of difficulty with the rares in these. So even though it's level 71, it's more like a level 75 area or so, roughly. So if you don't have confidence in your DPS, it definitely makes it a lot harder. A lot more difficult, so...
Not good. Not good at all. Oh, I've got just the contraption for this.
So yeah. You have to also guard your companions in order to
Would have avoided this.
let them open everything. And this, I think, is actually the first time
Survived?
I've been doing the this is the first time I've done the lab area, I do believe.
Would have avoided this.
So that's interesting. An armor piece.
Oh, I've got just the contraption for this.
And they must have sped up the animation for cutting doors open, because that's a lot faster than I remember.
We survived?
So, for the chests on the map here, these give you random items, but there are some on the map like this one that give you guaranteed of a certain type. Pretty much like most of the leagues out there, since Legion or so, they have had chests that have, you know, an armor icon saying that this chest has armor in it. And they pretty much have all the types in here. But when you open a chest, even if it's the smaller ones, it increases the alert level. And that is very important, because when you max out the alert level, you can no longer go to the end spot, I think. I haven't actually done that, but I'm pretty sure that if you max it out, you cannot get the final item that basically is what you use to increase the amount of rogues markers you have. And also, rogues markers are used to upgrade your companions as well later on, but I'm not to that point yet.
A simple solution.
So let's have her open one of these, see what we get. A stack of chromes. A synthesized item. I'm actually going to try to see if that's any good. The other thing to note is that you see that this has locks on these items, and what that means is that you cannot use them until you finish the heist, and if you fail the heist, you also lose everything. So, I mean, you lose everything with the lock symbol on there. So, yeah, that can be really frustrating, especially since, like I said before, these are definitely stronger than the regular content. So, you have that combination with
The axes and the gears go round and round.
So you have that combination with not guaranteed stuff. That can be very frustrating, I can imagine.
Hardly a hurdle.
So I'm gonna open this one, because it's the only other guaranteed one that I see. Whirling blades damage on a helmet that is useless. This might actually be worth something, possibly. So yeah, that's kind of the idea. Where you make most of your actual profit, your chaos orbs and whatnot, is by getting the various different chests.
The axles and the gears go round and round.
You've seen too much.
And I have to say, with this character, this has been the first time
Interesting tactics.
of trying out Chaos Inoculation, and it is probably the most satisfying build that I have come up with, because being immune to chaos damage is so amazing. Because usually for my characters, I almost never get very high chaos resistance, because chaos resistance is pretty hard to come by, especially if you have a large number of unique items. Unless those unique items give you chaos res, is hard to get that maxed out. So being just flat out immune to something that I more often than not die instantly from touching chaos damage, that is really amazing.
The axles and the gears go round and round. Remember, this is only the midpoint.
Okay, so when you break this, it immediately raises the alert level to max, and then you get the item, and then you have to basically sprint out to where you came in. So make sure that you remember where you come in from, because on the last heist that I did, that I was doing in preparation for this, I lost where the entrance was, and it took me about 5 minutes to find it. And when you're being chased by all of these various mobs that are harder than normal mobs, that was very hectic. So I'm way in the corner there. So this is where the monsters really come in.
Don't let them touch me!
And since most of this seems to be chaos damage, I can just walk through it, really.
Must get back on schedule. Don't let them touch me!
Yeah, and this is actually has a lot less monsters than they usually do, but I'm sure that if you don't have Chaos Inoculation, this can be pretty difficult. And also, they do seal doors as well, so... And since it takes longer with the alert level up, you have to make sure to defeat all of the enemies in the vicinity.
Violence complete. Zootikins, here comes a beating. Oh, such awful racket.
And I'm pretty sure the enemies do spawn infinitely
The real treasure
to a
is
point.
the knowledge we gleaned along the way.
To an extent, I do believe that the monsters do spawn infinitely, but there is a point where well, this shield turned out to be pretty useless. This might be worth something. Yeah, I have a maxed out roll on cold damage over time. But what I was saying is, to a certain point, you no longer get experience from the monsters. So that's basically like the very, very old Alorian encounters in that sense. So overall, my thoughts on Heist is that it really isn't a mechanic for me personally. I just think that there is a bit too much in it that I would need to research in order to make good use of the various characters and abilities, probably. And as you can see here, they aren't super amazingly profitable at this point, and I don't know what the deal was, but it sounded like Warmonger was telling me that the higher level heists and the grand heists, Grinding Gears games heavily nerfed their rewards, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And now in future updates, they're planning on buffing them again. So it's just really odd in that sense. So what you do with these items is that you give it to Faustus here, and he will give you the rogue markers that you earn.
Farewell.
So yeah, I just personally do not think that this is a League mechanic for me. And it sounds like they did add monsters that have on-death effects, which of course they did, because apparently you can't have a League without them. And also they added a bunch of traps. Well, I mean, it's just integrated into the heist itself, but there are several different areas that have like landmines or something like that, and especially in front of certain chests they have landmines in front of. And I was doing like a roughly level 71 like I did this time, and it did about half of my energy shield, so that was with my discipline on like 2500 damage. So you can imagine how frustrating that would be if I was doing a higher level one and I get good stuff, and then on one of the chests that you're like, oh, a chest, just instinctively go straight forward into them without one of your companions disarming it. That would be incredibly frustrating. And while it makes sense from a story point of view, from a gameplay point of view, it's no. So on the bright side, though, the characters that they did introduce, I personally think that they are very well done. Just like how they did with Betrayal League, the character interactions that they have done are very, very well done. And I think if you do invest some time into Heist, you will probably enjoy at least some of these characters. And I'm just thinking back of Betrayal, of making Haku an enemy was probably the most enjoyable thing to see. Unfortunately, I don't really care for Betrayal as a mechanic itself. Mostly because of intervention, but focusing back on Heist here. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on Heist. If you are willing to learn how it works and put in the time to level up your companions, and if Grinding Gears games actually makes the rewards profitable again, you will probably get a good amount of stuff from doing the mechanic. But as of right now, it kind of isn't worth it. I mean, maps are a lot simpler. They're a lot less complicated and give you a lot more experience. I mean, Grinding Gears Games has said that they're planning on increasing the experience amount, but ever since the start, heists are not really a good method of getting experience. So for maps, it's less complicated. In theory, there's less on death effects or landmines or environmental dangers. And then they give you, the standard amount of experience to level up with. So I don't know. It's just a mixed stuff. But yeah, I think if you spend the time to learn it, and if they buff it, it's definitely going to be something worth doing, but it's just not personally for me. So with that, thank you very much for watching, and have a wonderful day.